Hello, you're watching UZREPORT World News. My name is Davron Azizov and here are our top headlines for today. Uzbekistan has sent a second batch of humanitarian aid to China. Switch Asia SCP Facility, supported by the European Union Delegation to Uzbekistan, held the first multi-stakeholder consultation in Tashkent. President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Suma Chakrabarti, arrived in Tashkent on an official visit. During his two-day visit, he will meet with the President of Uzbekistan, the Minister of Finance, First Deputy Chairman of the Senate, and will also visit bank's projects in the Fergana Valley. Anton Usov, Chief Spokesman for Central Asia, has shared the details of the visit.
As you know, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is a major investor in Uzbekistan. Last year, we invested over 500 million euros into the national economy, which makes Uzbekistan seventh largest recipient of EBRD funds, and EBRD President Sir Suma Chakrabarti is visiting the country today and tomorrow to see the regions, to see the bank's clients in the Fergana Valley, and obviously to meet the country's leadership, including President Mirziyoyev, Minister of Finance Ishmetov, and former Governor Safoyev. EBRD's objective is to implement current country strategy designed for 5 years, and the country strategy was approved back in 2018. We are trying to develop infrastructure which includes roads, which includes water treatment and water supply facilities across the country, because water supply is a very serious issue for the country. In addition to that, we were looking at things like sustainable energy supply. We will be supporting traditional power generation, and the biggest single project we financed last year was a Talimarjan power station, financed early in 2019. But also we'll be looking at things like renewable energy, which is solar and wind, to achieve better energy mix, better energy supply mix.
Uzbekistan sent a second batch of humanitarian aid to China to support the country's efforts to fight the spread of coronavirus. More to follow in the next report.
In the early morning of March 3rd, representatives of the Ministry of Emergency Situations and other relevant individuals involved in the delivery of humanitarian aid gathered at the Tashkent International Airport. Friendly assistance of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan to the brotherly Chinese people, says the inscription on the boxes filled with protective gear. All these products were manufactured by domestic textile enterprises. The first batch of humanitarian assistance was sent to Beijing on February 12th.
Uzbekistan Railways will launch 2 new Afrasiab trains this year, switching to smart passenger registration systems, improving the quality of the train services. These and other issues were discussed at a roundtable organized by the company.
The event was attended by Uzbekistan Railways officials. They spoke about measures being taken to introduce modern technologies in the railroad, train stations and the company's services. One of its novelties is an option to buy tickets online. We have a new project called Railshop.NEWS, which is an online souvenir shop for passengers. Also, for the development of tourism, Uzbekistan Railways, in partnership with other regional companies, will launch chartered trains between various cities in Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. Our main barrier now is an outdated regulatory framework. This year we will change many regulatory documents, but it will take a while. We have forward-thinking and qualified experts in our team, which will allow us to successfully achieve our goals.
Countries in Central Asia are well aware of the urgent need to switch to more sustainable production and consumption patterns and green economy. On March 3rd in Tashkent, Switch Asia SCP Facility, supported by the European Delegation to Uzbekistan, held the first multi-stakeholder consultation on sustainable consumption and production. Around 50 stakeholders, including policymakers, practitioners and civil society organizations, attended the event to discuss challenges and identify national priorities in this area.
Inefficient use of natural resources causes environmental problems and impacts people and governments. This is where the need for a green economy comes. Its key focus is the efficient use of energy resources and mitigation of climate change. So, to support the economy in our region in 2007, the European Union launched the Switch Asia program to support transition to a low-carbon, greener and circular economy in Asia. The program currently covers 24 countries in the region. In total, 23 new projects are being implemented, of which 7 have been selected specifically for Central Asia, which will particularly cover such sectors as tourism, agricultural and food production, textiles and leather.
Our industrial sector is the second largest contributors of the CO2. However, I think it's quite obvious that we should not limit the economic growth of our countries, and this is bringing new jobs and opportunities for our new generations, and I would say especially for a country like Uzbekistan, which is in their need of new decent jobs. So we have rather to focus on decoupling from environmental degradation, ensuring cleaner processes and products.
During the conference, attendees spoke about the central idea of a green economy, and the companies that received grants for nature conservation and economic development presented their projects. Various long-term measures and programs related to SCP are already implemented in Uzbekistan. They include the Strategy on Transition to Green Economy between 2019 and 2030, the National Policy Environmental Protection, the Waste Management Strategy for 2019-2028, the Law on Renewable Energy passed in April 2019, and target parameters for further development on renewable energy to increase the share of renewables in total energy generation to 25% by 2030. The Switch Asia program has launched 7 grant projects in the Central Asian region. They are aimed at supporting sustainable consumption and production and the transition to a low-carbon, greener and circular economy in Asia. Each project has its own regional focus. They are mainly focused on the tourism, textile and agro-food sectors of the entire region. For example, in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, particular attention is paid to the introduction of energy efficiency certificates and sustainable models in a tourism potential. As for Uzbekistan, the tourism is only a small part of reforms set to be carried out in the near future.
There are 4 projects to be implemented in Uzbekistan. 2 of them can be implemented in the neighboring Kazakhstan and Tajikistan as well. These projects are mainly related to the tourism sector and tourism potential of the country. Moreover, it's planned to improve the silk industry and agro-industry.
The projects will be funded by the European Union through its grants program. A long implementation term will make it possible to achieve the expected results. The event also saw a brief presentation of each project.
Once the projects are successfully completed, they can be replicated in other regions. This is only the beginning, and we hope the scope of initiatives will be expanded step by step.
Opportunities for exchange and cooperation between the countries of the region were touched upon. EU's technical assistance program will help to implement the projects.
Violence against women and girls is one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world. It knows no social, economic or national boundaries. Worldwide, an estimated 1 in 3 women will experience physical or sexual abuse in her lifetime. A roundtable panel dedicated to gender-based violence survivors was attended by UN experts, medical practitioners and representatives of various professions who share a common goal: to find solutions to end gender inequality.
Women and girls represent half of the world's population and therefore also half of its potential. Gender equality, besides being a fundamental human right, is essential to achieve peaceful societies with full human potential and sustainable development. Gender-based violence against women and girls remains one of the most pressing justice challenges of our times and the most widespread violation of women's human rights. The WHO estimates that intimate partner violence, which is the most prevalent form of gender-based violence, affects 1 in 3 women in their lifetimes. Preventing and responding to gender-based violence has moved to the top of the global agenda.
The event is focused on gender-based violence survivors at the core of justice programming. So IDLO is a rule of law organization, and many of our work on gender actually focuses on gender-based violence, which is one of the most pressing issues of our time. 1 in 3 women experience violence in their lifetime. So as an organization that's very much concerned about women's rights and women's ability to access justice, this event focuses on what are the good practice and approaches for organizations like IDLO, UN Women, Women Equals Men, and other policymakers and practitioners, what they need to do, what are policy directions for them to take, and basically what approaches are needed in the future to be able to work better at putting women at the center of justice work.
Gender equality in Uzbekistan has seen both progress and regression since independence in 1991. The principles of non-discrimination and equal rights for women and men are enshrined in the constitution. Young girls and women have no legal impediments or barriers to accessing any level of the educational system. No laws restrict women's political participation. Uzbekistan prohibits violence against women and forbids discrimination in the workplace. However, there is still a long way to go to achieve full equality of rights and opportunities between men and women in Uzbekistan. Despite significant progress and improvements in the recent years, there are unresolved issues related to the status of women and gender equality. Traditional stereotypes of the roles of women and men in the family and in society are also a major challenge.
Turkish president on Wednesday called on Greece and other European Union countries to comply with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on the Syrian refugee issue. I call on notably Greece and all European Union countries to respectfully treat the refugees which came to their territories in line with Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Recep Tayyip Erdogan said at his party's parliamentary group meeting in the capital Ankara. In cases of oppression, everybody has a right to take refuge in another country and to be treated as a refugee in those countries. Today, those European countries which close their borders to refugees and push them back by biting, firing and making their boats submerged are violating the Human Rights Declaration, he said. The Turkish president slammed Greece by showing a photo displaying the help extended to the Greek people who fled Nazi attacks and took refuge in Syria during the Second World War. Look at this photo published on January 11, 1942 on a newspaper called Huna Al-Quds, showing aid provided to Greeks who took refuge in Syria after escaping the Nazi attacks. One of the girls and boys in this photo who is given food and clothes may be the grandparents of Mitsotakis. Turkey, when Greece was fighting against invasion and poverty, supported its neighbors sending ships full of food aid. During the same period, many Greeks came and lived in peace in our country, in addition to other Arab countries. The Greeks who tried every way, including firing at refugees to push them away, should not forget that one day they themselves may need the mercy. Ankara has repeatedly complained that Europe has failed to keep its promises under the 2016 Euro Union-Turkey refugee deal to help migrants and stem further migrant waves.
The number of coronavirus cases in Japan hit 1,000 on Wednesday, further fueling concerns that the Tokyo Olympics will be affected. While over 700 of the country's cases are from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, the newest case was the first found in the far western prefecture of Yamaguchi. It's stoking fears that the virus is spreading to all corners of Japan. And with just 5 months to go before Tokyo's Summer Olympics, the host city has seen 40 cases. However, at least for now, International Olympic Committee spokesperson Mark Adams said on Tuesday that the Games will proceed as scheduled.
As you know, there's not even an international travel ban and still not a pandemic announced. All the advice we're getting is that the Games can and will go ahead. There are some issues and complications with qualification, although thankfully National Olympic Committees and IFs are working very closely together, and we seem so far to be doing a very good job of making sure athletes can compete.
But if things get worse, what options does Japan have? A top official says the Games could be postponed. On Tuesday, Japan's Olympics minister, Seiko Hashimoto, said that Tokyo's contract with the IOC allows the Olympics to be pushed back until the end of the year. The contract states that they're to be held within the year 2020. However, the right to cancel the Games entirely still belongs to the IOC.
Kazakhstan has temporarily closed its Caspian ports to passenger ships from Iran and Azerbaijan since March 5th to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. This was stated in the message of the Ministry of Industry and Infrastructure Development of Kazakhstan on Wednesday. The service of sea vessels arriving from Azerbaijan and Iran and transporting people and vehicles with drivers is temporarily suspended in the ports of Aktau and Kuryk.
That was all for today. Thank you for watching UZREPORT World News. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Goodbye.